So the next thing that we're going to work on is still very much about listening. So the last playlist that you completed, an assessment that you took, was all about listening for purpose. But now it says we are going to continue practicing our listening skills. You learned already about 3 different speech or interview purposes. Now we're going to focus strictly on one of those purposes, the power of persuasion. So remember, you learned about speeches that inform, speeches that persuade, and speeches that entertain. We're going to put our magnifying glass specifically on persuasive speeches now. Persuasive arguments are designed, as you know, to convince you of something. Many times, however, the speaker might use trickery or bad logic for the purpose of convincing you. These lapses in good argumentation are called logical fallacies. So these logical fallacies are bad. These are things we want to avoid, okay? You must learn to be a skeptical listener, okay, which means you are listening with a skeptical ear so that you aren't duped by them, okay? If you can recognize these things, then you won't be tricked by them. There are a lot of different types of fallacies. In fact, I would say there are hundreds of logical fallacies. But we're just going to focus on one little subset, one little type of logical fallacies. It's time to learn about fallacies of relevance. Okay, you might know this word relevance or relevant. Okay, it means that something should be related. That's kind of the root word to something else. So if something is a fallacy of relevance, that means it's probably not related, though it looks like it might be, and that's how it tricks you. So that's what we're going to learn about in this playlist, and that's what you'll be assessed over. So speaking of assessments, let's take a look, as always, at first of all the learning target itself, and then we'll break down our proficiency scale. So the learning target is called SL Relevance. Remember, SL stands for speaking, listening, okay? By the end of this playlist, your goal is to be able to say, I can analyze the speaker's argument for relevance. So you are listening to a speaker, and you are analyzing their argument and making sure that it is truly relevant. And spoiler alert, they won't be, because you're going to be looking for what the flaws are. So, as always, please remember to use and reuse all of the resources in this playlist to help you master the target. You might need to backtrack, go over something more than once to make sure that you're ready for the assessment. And remember, that's good, that's okay. It's your job to recognize that and to do that. And of course, I'm here to help you any way I can. So let's look at that proficiency scale. So, let's start at the bottom, as always. So if you score a 1, which translates to about a 20%, that means you cannot correctly identify which relevance fallacy is being committed by the speaker, it should say, because you were listening. 2, for roughly a 40%, you can maybe identify the relevance fallacy that's committed by the speaker, but you cannot explain how that fallacy is being committed, okay? So we get to this word analyze. We had this in our last one as well. Analyze means different things in different situations. But what I mean, and in order to get a 3 or to be passing, what I mean by analyze is that you can recognize when a speaker is using a relevance fallacy. You can name which fallacy is committed, and you can explain how the speaker is doing so. That's the analysis. You can explain to me, this is the fallacy committed, and this is how this speaker is doing it. This is what they said that commits the fallacy. Okay, that's what you're looking for. Now let's look at how to shoot higher. Get a B, okay, a 4. That means you can explain in your own words. You can do everything for the 3, but also you can explain in your own words what a logical fallacy is, and you can explain in your own words what different types are. And I'm only looking for you to describe the types that we study. Again, I'm not expecting you to know the hundreds and hundreds of fallacies. I'm only going to teach you a few, and those are the ones you're responsible for. All right, to get to the very top, you can do everything here, and you can do everything here, and you are going to create your own product some sort of fake advertisement or comic strip, for example, but maybe you have a different idea, just bring that to my attention and we'll talk about it. But you're going to create a product that clearly demonstrates a relevance fallacy. And then you're going to thoroughly explain in writing which fallacy is committed and how it's being committed. All right. So that's how you're going to be scored. I think it's important for us to talk about this. Why are we doing this? Well, there's a few reasons. Probably I could have thought of a lot more than three. These are the three big ones, okay? Number one, it's very important to improve listening skills. I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot, okay? We need to directly practice our listening skills, okay? So we're going to continue with that. For two, I want you to learn to be a skeptic. It's a very important life skill to be skeptical of things, okay? It doesn't mean that you walk around scowling and you doubt everything necessarily, but you question things. It's good to question things. For one thing, you won't be taken advantage of by politicians, okay? As you'll see in this playlist, politicians are a very good example of people who use these logical fallacies to try to sway people all the time, okay? Corporations, through advertisements in particular, definitely use logical fallacies to try to convince people to buy their products, okay? And then anybody that has authority over you can't take advantage of you if you are a skeptic and you can question things, and of course in a respectful way, if it's your boss or whatever, your parent, or your teacher, for crying out loud. But people who have authority over you, you want to be aware if they are trying to manipulate you in some way through fallacy. Number three, okay, this is the very directly school-related reason. You'll produce better arguments if you can recognize bad arguments, okay? The first step to improving your own argumentation skills is to be able to recognize when you hear a bad argument somewhere else. And your junior project is all about writing an argument, and it's a researched argument, okay? So this is kind of a prep activity to get you ready to create your own. All right, so here's a very brief overview of the playlist that you're about to go through. First of all, if you're preparing to analyze a persuasive speech for its relevance, okay, there's lots of different things you could analyze a persuasive speech for. But right now, we're only going to analyze it for relevance, okay? So these are the things you need to keep in mind if you're doing that. Keep in mind that you'll be listening for logical fallacies of relevance. That's how you're going to analyze for relevance. There are several of these, but these are the only ones we're going to focus on. One, ad hominem, which doesn't mean much to you now. I'll tell you right now, that's a Latin term. It means to the man, okay? And I'll explain what it means later on in the playlist. 2, appeal to false authority. 3, sentimental appeal. And 4, bandwagon. So these are 4 of very many numerous logical fallacies, but I thought that these were pretty big ones that I would like for you to be aware of. So these are the only ones you're responsible for. And don't worry about what the heck does all this mean on this page yet. That's what we're going to break down in the playlist.